Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And ever since the first rumors started to come around about Avengers Doomsday, essentially it was going to be like a Secret Wars thing, long before we ever knew it was going to be Doomsday, long before we ever knew that Iron Man was going to end up coming back and everything else, right? When Robert Downey Jr. would eventually return and be the big announcement they had at Comic-Con a couple of years ago, or was it last year? I can't even remember anymore at this point, boys and girls. But at the end of the day, as soon as we'd heard these initial rumors, this is something we had thought was going to end up happening. This is what I had said in many videos, going all the way back to the old channel and stuff like that. You guys can go check out my archives over on the Green Machine for all of that information. But this is something that we'd speculated on for a very long time. That Kevin Feige, after the massive failure of what many of the fans and even the legacy media started to coin as the MCU, right? The female kind of alternative version, the way they were kind of pushing all of the women power stuff, a lot of the diversity inclusions kind of stuff that we saw with Eternals. Remember, boys and girls, that movie was going to save lives, but not save the box office. And at the end of the day, we saw this kind of happen, and we saw the box office failures. We saw the television shows failures. We saw all of this collapse, all of this kind of stuff that they were chasing with all these characters that nobody really was very well aware of, that they were offshoots, random people from the comics that did not succeed in the comics either. Yet for some reason, Kevin Feige thought it was okay to greenlight all of these characters and make them the face of the new MCU out there post-Endgame. Well, obviously, you guys have seen the results of that out there. Everything's turned into a disastrous dumpster fire. They've lost tens of billions of dollars between television shows and movies over the last few years. And guess what? It turns out, like we had speculated for a very long time, and so had many others out there, that Kevin Feige was going to use Secret Wars, just like Marvel Comics did, to erase everything that wasn't working. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the latest information that we have gotten from Gary Buechler, aka Nerdrotic himself, who has some of the most reliable sources we have ever seen. This is the same guy that told us Rings of Power was going to be the abomination it turned out to be long before we ever see it. Well, guess what? He has now confirmed our speculation, because boys and girls, Avengers Doomsday trailer is ready, and it does not include any Disney Plus Marvel heroes. That's right. Every single abysmal character that's been introduced, whether it be Echo, whether it be Ironheart, whether it be all of the little extras and Agatha all along, Wiccan, any of that kind of stuff out there, none of them will appear in Doomsday. And when they do, if any of them do, finally appear in Secret Wars, now given this is strictly my speculation, but everything is lining up to look exactly like this, that he will erase and kill off, either off screen, completely and totally ignore certain characters are failable, or at least give them some kind of hero's death out there and his justification for all of it out there, because he's going to get massive backlash. But boys and girls, like I have said for a very long time, I never truly believed that Kevin Feige was a true believer. Now, I allow a lot of folks out there will say that absolutely is the case. He believes in the spirit of the age nonsense and pushing the agenda. But at the end of the day, I believed him, just like so many others out there in Hollywood, that their ego, their narcissism, and most of all, their pride would come before that, because Kevin Feige, just like Bob Iger, wants to go down in history as the greatest thing to ever happen to Disney Marvel. And boys and girls, everything that's happened over the last few years has proven that once he had total control, it all turned into a miserable failure. And now he's going to use Secret Wars to try to erase all of his mistakes and restore some of that gloss and glamour that Hollywood once believed he had, after taking responsibility for every great creation done by far better men. And now we have the proof to show it, that once again, at the end of the day, boys and girls, despite all of their virtue signaling, their egos and pride and their own narcissism will be far more important to them than any kind of identity nonsense politics stuff that you thought they truly believed in. So we're going to check out this article from geeksandgamers.com, getting all of the juicy details, but everybody's been covering this. This isn't the first Geeks and Gamers article that's gone over this. Cosmic Book News has been talking about this. I'm sure that The Heart Place has an article over it, and everything else. But this one has the latest. This one's got everything all wrapped into one, including what Gary has said on live streams out there as well. So we're going to give you the full context of this rumor, exactly what's going on, and of course, what all of this means for the future of the MCU. But before we do, If you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,300. We're sailing our way towards 24 on our journey to 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 2341, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let it, what do you think about this? Is this what you suspected, like a lot of other fans and commentators and news people in general did as well? Or does this kind of come out of a shock to you? Did you not believe that Kevin Feige would actually go out there and kill off all of these characters and get rid of them? Did you think the MCU was going to carry on forever? Do you believe Gary? Do you think this rumor is true? Or do you think it's just a bunch of those bunch of those chuds out there in their basements talking trash about all the MCU characters that were, of course, fabulous? Let us know anything relevant in the comment section down below, because unlike in the MCU, all opinions are welcome down below. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, check out the links in the description as well. All right, boys and girls, from our dear sweet Marvin Montanaro over at geeksandgamers.com. Fans have been eager and skeptical about any real news surrounding Avengers Doomsday. Between conflicting leaks, chaotic rewrites, and a revolving door of rumored cameos, most are asking two questions. When will we finally see an Avengers Doomsday trailer, and who, and more importantly, isn't exactly in this movie? Now, obviously, we talked about all of that kind of stuff. We went over this when they had their big, like, 5-hour freaking stupid live stream teasing everybody for like 3 hours before they actually revealed any of the names on the people out there, right? So we know a large list of them. And that very large list, as you'll notice, doesn't include any characters introduced in any Disney Plus series out there. Only characters that we've already seen in previous MCU movies. And guess what? Brie Larson wasn't on that list. And Brie Larson, when asked about that from The View not too long ago, flat out said, "You know I can't answer that question, but thanks for asking." So, like, it's one of them situations where we know where all of this is going. There's a lot of signs that have all pointing for all of this to be completely and totally true. So now our dear sweet Gary, Nerdrotic, known to millions as Nerdrotic, has dropped new information that may answer both. Buchler revealed that Avengers Doomsday trailer is complete, detailed what it focuses on, and confirmed several major omissions, including Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, Ironheart, and every character introduced through Disney Plus. And why would this not surprise anybody? Because despite all of the activism, despite all of the people I used to get in my comment section saying, Disney will do this forever, their parks will keep them afloat forever, yada, 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 they'll never run out of money. Well, guess what? Turned out that wasn't true. Because the parks are suffering, attendance is at all-time lows, they're doing everything they can to bring people in, they're even offering discounts to states that just touch Florida in order for people to come to their parks. Universal Studios is currently eating their lunch, and their television shows and box offices have turned into a disastrous dumpster fire. James Gunn, former Marvel employees, new Superman, although it didn't make a profit, still did better than Fantastic Four at the box office. And that's from a brand new universe, from a fan base that is extremely burned. But hey, it turns out Marvel's fans are way more burned. So from Gary, the Doomsday trailer is done. It's long. It'll focus on Doom, showing how he's a bigger threat than Thanos. I was told it could be attached to Avatar. No Captain Marvel, no She-Hulk, no Ironheart. I was also told that no one who hasn't appeared in an MCU film will be in Doomsday. In other words, Marvel TV and Disney Plus show characters will not be in it. Now, common nerds, you might say, well, he's not saying they're dead. He's not saying they're going to kill them off. He's just saying they're not going to be in it. Yes, exactly. And that tells us everything we need to know about the entire situation. Because if these characters were successful, if these characters made Marvel a profit, if they got Kevin Feige, any of the kind of accolades from all of the simps out there in the spirit of the age infested media, he would have absolutely made sure all of these characters were front and center. Because after all, Kevin Feige has told us on several occasions that he is the one that makes all final decisions on all Marvel projects, right? He reviews some of that stuff 4 or 5 times before we see it as the public, right? So we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if these characters are successful, Feige would be touting them from the high heavens, but he's not. Noticed how Loki was the only thing that got a season 2 out of all of the Disney Plus Marvel shows? I wonder why. If they were as successful as all of the trade magazines and all of the rest of you Disney pixie dusters out there claimed, and that the agenda was perfectly okay, then where are they? Why aren't they front and center for Avengers Doomsday? That's because they weren't. You were lied to, they were a flop, they were a failure, and Kevin Feige knows that, boys and girls. And once again, despite all of his virtue signaling, despite telling you how down he was with the spirit of the age, despite even dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight, it turns out his own personal pride and ego are more important to him than that. And it's one of those situations where, why wouldn't you? Do we need to go back over all the ratings? Do I need to bring all this stuff up for Echo? Do we need to talk about every single Marvel show lost more and more audiences as it went on? Right? That even Daredevil Born Again couldn't bring the audiences back in. Oh, well, Ironheart did better than Daredevil Born Again. How many episodes did it drop at once in order to do that? 3. Daredevil Born Again never did that. They only ever dropped 2 episodes at once, and it was halfway through the season. So not exactly going to help fluff your numbers very much for your premiere, unlike Ironheart. And how much worse did Ironheart's numbers get after that? Oh, that's right, they disappeared. They weren't even measurable anymore at that point. So don't give me that nonsense either. But at the end of the day, this is what happens. This is what happens when all of this stuff absolutely flops. Nerdrotic's comments reveal what could be a massive internal shift or a quiet purge. Quiet purge. If accurate, Avengers Doomsday won't just exclude Captain Marvel and She-Hulk, but also Ironheart and every other hero introduced on Disney+. This means no Kate Bishop, thank God, no Moon Knight, which that character did not get the show he deserved and was completely and totally not fair and just suffered from more MCU nonsense. No Echo, and even no Daredevil, which honestly, I think that's okay right now. Matt needs to stay kind of a character on the ground for right now. So yeah, Miss Marvel, however, would be fair game as she did appear in the Marvels. What do you want to bet we're not going to see her anyway? Of course, Ironheart has also appeared on screen in Marvel's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, but Nerdrotic was very specific that Ironheart would not appear in this film. And he wouldn't have called those one out specifically if they were not the exceptions to the rule. And that's why he did that, because most people know Ironheart from the series, those few of us that watched it and suffered through it, for all of you out there. But most people are not going to remember her from Wakanda Forever because guess what? She wasn't even in her armor in Wakanda Forever. So there you go. These omissions suggest that Marvel is abandoning years of interconnected storytelling, walking back its Disney Plus experiment entirely. After repeatedly insisting the streaming shows were vital to understanding the MCU, the studio now seems ready to toss that continuity out the window, likely because almost nobody watched them. And that was the funny part about that too, because that was the trade magazine's excuses, right? Even though, they ran with the storylines, they ran with the headlines from Kevin Feige and all of the rest of the Disney executives saying that, oh, you have to watch these in order to understand the overarching story in the MCU. And then the best part about that is when that failed miserably to entice anybody in because, hey, guess what? You tricked us with that once. You tried that tactic. Remember? Called Captain Marvel. Oh, you have to see it in order to fully understand what happens at the end of the Infinity Saga conclusion. Did it? Did it matter at all? Nope. All it did was lead into a failed, miserably bomb of a disastrous dumpster fire of a Disney Plus show called Secret Invasion. That's it. So guess what? The fans have figured it out, and they're not going to fall for that trick twice, especially after the disastrous dumpster fires that your shows have seen. So nope, not going to happen. And that was the best part, because the trade magazines tried using that as an excuse as to why Thunderbolts flopped, as to why Captain America Brave New World, Captain Black America flopped at the box office. And then Fantastic Four came out. Well, those characters didn't start on Disney Plus. None of that were even related to it. It was supposed to be its own little new fresh story. And then all of a sudden they were silent when that movie flopped because they'd ran out of excuses at that point. Just once again shows you how damaged the Marvel brand is. And despite this refresh, despite trying to cast aside all of these characters that aren't working, there's a very good possibility it is way too little, way too late. Deadpool and Wolverine was an anomaly. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was an anomaly. Why? Because they were good. And Guardians of the Galaxy 3 opened up weak because nobody trusted Marvel at that point. And only because the fans overall agreed that it was good did it end up having legs. Deadpool and Wolverine, smashing opening box office weekend. Why wouldn't it? Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds had been doing the marketing for that movie for practically 3 years, right? We all knew that wasn't a Kevin Feige production. That was a Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman production, which is why that thing smashed it at the box office. It's the only thing to cross $1 billion for Marvel since Endgame. So, yeah, it's not going to work. It's too little too late for the majority of this. Honestly, what's going to tell us if my speculation is correct or not is the box office for these movies. Because of bringing back Robert Downey Jr., the Russo brothers, and literally throwing the kitchen sink of every character that's ever been actually successful inside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this movie, or at these movies, I should say, does not work, they're toast, right? We're to call Star Wars a dead brand. You could basically say the same thing about Marvel at this point. But Star Wars will get that official confirmation when the Mando and Grogu movie flops at the box office. And if they end up spending as much money as we think they're spending on Avengers Doomsday, this thing's going to have to crack $1 billion to even come close to sniffing a profit. And if it doesn't, this thing is going to be a flop. And no matter how much purging Kevin Feige tries to do and try to erase all of his sins and all of the decisions he's made, it won't do him any good. Because fans are at the point, they're beyond burned. They're basically just at apathy in a lot of cases. And that is the death nail. On the surface, cutting unpopular characters might look like Marvel finally listening to the audience. But in context, this move reeks of panic more than strategy. The MCU's foundation is cracking, and the Avengers Doomsday is being built right on top of it. This isn't a confident reboot of the franchise. It's damage control. After years of scolding the fans, rewriting canon, and replacing legacy heroes with untested stand-ins, Marvel seems to be realizing that nostalgia alone can't save them. And it's one of those things, we all expected this. This is exactly what we said. A lot of people out there said that this was nothing more than damage control. Right? Kang was supposed to be the new big bad. It's supposed to replace Thanos, right? And then Loki season 2 flopped. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania flopped. And then what happened? Well, Jonathan Majors just happened to get himself in a little legal trouble. And that was just the excuse Disney needed to jettison him. Bringing back the Russo brothers, bringing back Robert Downey Jr., and calling this another Avengers movie was nothing more than a Hail Mary. The real question is God going to answer their prayers with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars? I think he might let them suffer the consequences of their own actions with this one, boys and girls, which means that movie's going to flop. If Nerdrotic's reporting holds true, Marvel isn't reinventing itself, it's retreating, hoping audiences will forget the past 5 years of creative misfires. Whether fans forgive or not remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, Avengers Doomsday isn't looking like a comeback, it's looking like survival mode. And he's right. This is what we've been saying the entire time. That's what this is. This was a Hail Mary. Everybody knew this. It was so obvious that you couldn't deny that this was nothing more than that. This was nothing more than a Hail Mary to save a franchise that Kevin Feige has driven into the ground. Long gone are the guys like Ike Perlmutter, who actually gave us and was part of the creative part of the team behind giving us the really good MCU stuff that we all knew and loved. And then what Kevin Feige do? Use the hashtag #MeToo movement, just like the rest of Hollywood did, as an excuse to push him out. And of course, it doesn't help that Ike Perlmutter might be one of them evil conservatives out there, boys and girls. So you can easily purge those from good old woke Disney. That was easy enough. So he came in and he took credit. And now we've seen what's happened over the past 5 years, arguably 10, of him having total control and pushing Ike Perlmutter out, and Ike Perlmutter not having any choice in any of the matter of what happens going forward. We've seen absolutely insane, overflated budgets, overflated egos from actors, directors, and writers, and of course, overflated egos from Kevin Feige himself. And now it's all collapsing, and he's trying to erase his past mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's probably far too little, far too late. Would I like to see Marvel get better? Absolutely. Would I love to see the return of the heydays of what we got with Iron Man and everything else? Absolutely. But until leadership changes, nothing is going to change. Because at the end of the day, despite all of his lies, to all of you activists out there, he was nothing more than virtue signaling to try to garner your audience. Because at the end of the day, Kevin Feige's pride, ego mattered to him more than anything else. And this latest rumor confirming the fact of what we had been speculating for a long time, that Kevin Feige is trying to erase his mistakes from history, guess what? It's exactly what we expected, and it's exactly what we knew this was going to be all along. And it is. And the real question is it going to work with general audiences? Because based on the numbers alone, Marvel fans are beyond burned, and Kevin Feige's desperate Hail Mary is probably going to flop miserably. But hey, if nothing else, boys and girls, take some solace in knowing that you have had an effect, and all of those abysmal abominations that happened on Disney Plus are not going to return in Doomsday, and you have no one to thank for that but yourselves. So congratulations. Kevin Feige's Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight, and Avengers Doomsday will end up being his burning, despite him trying to erase his sins, because trust me, the fans will not forget. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.